as at the beginning of time itself, there was only one creature in one place. This place was called the Pearl, and inside this pearl was Anu, the only being in this existence outside of time itself. How Anu and Pearl came to be is unknown, but what is known is that Anu would just chill around in the Pearl for a long time before he realized that he wanted to expel all evil that's inside of him, desiring to become a perfect creature. Expelling all this evil left Anu a being of pure good. However, the evil that he cast out manifested itself into a creature known as Tatamet, the prime evil. He was described as having 7 heads, 3 great ones and 4 smaller ones. The two creatures would engage in a constant battle for supremacy that would last for a time unfathomable to mortals. Eventually, they would both die to each other's hands, destroying them both in the process and in battle's wake creating a nexus of reality of sorts known as Pandemonium. From the remains of Anu and Tatamet came to be 2 great realms of existence. From Anu's gigantic spine came to be the Crystal Arch, and from the rest of his body, the high heavens. Tatamet's remains would also serve as a basis for a whole different realm, the Burning Hells. These domains would eventually have their own denizens. The high heavens would be inhabited by angels formed through the process known as angelic resonance, which occurs when the high heavens are in perfect harmony. Essentially, they are kinda like music creatures. They were led by the Angiris Council. These guys, Imperius, Tyrell, Auriel, Malthael, and Itharael, who are said to embody the essence of Anu. On the other hand, from Tatamet's heads came into existence the 7 prime evils, 3 greater evils from the big heads, Diablo, Baal, and Mephisto, and 4 lesser evils from the smaller heads, Andariel, Duriel, Belial, and Asmodan. These 2 factions just continued the conflict that Anu and Tatamet waged, dubbing it the Eternal Conflict. For a long time the angels and demons fought over Anu's eye, which was said to have great powers, including creating whole worlds. It is also known as the World Stone. It switched hands a lot, so a great fortress was built to keep it safe, the Pandemonium Fortress. But that didn't do much either, as now the fortress was the thing that was switching hands all the time. After a while, an angel known as Inarius got really tired of all this war, so he gathered like-minded demons and angels, broke into the Pandemonium Fortress with them, and stole the World Stone, using it to create a place for angels and demons to live in unity away from the eternal conflict. He also fell in love with a demon, Lilith, the daughter of Mephisto. Using the power of the World Stone, they created a world called Sanctuary. Now there was nothing much to do on Sanctuary except each other, so a lot of demons and angels started coupling, and eventually some had kids. A sort of hybrid race called the Nephilim, who were super duper mega powerful, to the point that their parents got scared and were actually considering murdering them all. Inarius was off to meditate on this decision, while Lilith, who wouldn't let this stand, murdered every single angel and demon in Sanctuary, which really pissed Inarius off, but as he loved her, he couldn't kill her. So he just banished her outside of reality into a place known as the Void. Now Inarius, being the only original denizen of Sanctuary remaining, decides to alter the World Stone so that it would exponentially lower the power of the Nephilim throughout generations. During this time he would be hidden. No one really knew where he went, though some suggest he might have lived among the Nephilim and their descendants, the humans. Eventually the humans discovered magic and used it to summon and enslave demons, which tipped the demons of the Burning Hells off about the existence of Sanctuary. The great evils, Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal, started to slowly corrupt humanity, creating a huge religion known as the Temple of the Triune, which is basically the worship of the 3 greater evils, but like totally whitewashed. For example, instead of worshipping Baal, the Lord of Destruction, they would worship Bala, the spirit of creation. Inarius, in response to this, started his own religion, the Cathedral of Light. Not that one. Seeing as these two religions were on opposing sides, a great religious war begins in Sanctuary between the two. This war is known as the Sin War.
My lord has named the battle for this world and all who exist here, the Sin War.
During this time, Lilith managed to escape the void and visit a farmer who lost all his family in the conflict, a man known as Uldyssian. Within him, she unlocks his hidden Nephilim powers, wanting to use him against Inarius. Instead of this, what happened was Uldyssian formed the Ediram, which beat both religions, cast Lilith back into the void, and, kicked ass in general. However, in the process, the High Heavens learned of humanity and of Sanctuary, thus they invaded. And also, so do the demons of the Burning Hells, and the war kicks off its second stage, the fight between the High Heavens, the Burning Hells, and the Ediram. Uldyssian becomes more and more powerful, but at the end he decides to sacrifice himself in order to banish both demons and angels from Sanctuary. In this process, all Ediram went back to being regular old humans. In the aftermath of the war, the Angiris Council voted on whether to kill all humanity or not. Tyrell managed to spare humanity, because he voted against killing them all. They also made a deal with the Burning Hells that humanity will be let to choose their own path, whether that be evil or good, and that neither the Burning Hells nor the High Heavens would interfere. To seal the deal, they gave Inarius to Mephisto as a prisoner, who tortured him immensely. It is believed that Inarius is still locked away in the Burning Hells to this day. It was also decided that all memories of the Sin War would be mind-wiped from almost all humans, giving them a sort of a soft reboot, kinda like the New 52. Humans at this point were tired of being religious, so they decided to go back to being magical, marking the period known as the Age of Magic. As I said, some humans were still aware of the Sin War, and among these were some big cheese mages who decided that all angelic and demonic magic is banned. Some didn't follow this though. A mage clan known as the Vigerai was still practicing demonology, which caused tension between the mage clans, and eventually breaking out into the mage clan wars, during which Vigerai openly used demonic magic and summoned a bunch of demons to Sanctuary. The war lasted for a couple of years, and after it, magic was much more regulated, the mage clans lost their public appeal, and people decided that magic wasn't cool anymore, so they went back to being religious once again, starting what is known as the Age of Faith. 1,000 years would pass, and the demons keep having this odd obsession over humanity. So much so that the lesser evils, Andariel, Belial, Asmodan, and Duriel, start getting kinda pissed that the great evils don't wanna do the good old eternal conflict anymore. So they start a literal revolution and started the first civil war of the Burning Hells. And to their credit, the lesser evils did manage to banish the great evils, Diablo, Mephisto, and Baal. Since they loved humans so much, they were banished to Sanctuary. Yes, that's gonna turn out just fine. The thing is, this was a 5-head move by the Great Evils. They masterminded the whole thing, Reverse Uno, Jailer, and Sire Denathrius Shadowlands style 5D chess. They actually wanted to be exiled because they learned about these things called the Soul Stones, which were shards of the World Stone that angels wanted to use if the Great Evils were to start some beef. The traitor angel, Izual, told the demons this, and in turn they gave him some sick demonic powers. The lesser evils left in Hells couldn't hold down their power, so they started fighting amongst themselves, and thus began the Second Civil War. Oh, and if you think that plan is 5-head, wait until you learn about the 10-head plan that Diablo made up later. As you'd expect, the Great Evils started some beef and went on corrupting life around Sanctuary, the exact opposite of what was agreed upon at the end of the Sin War. Tyrell learned about this, but decided not to tell the rest of the Angiris Council because he thought they might do a 360 no-scope on Sanctuary despite his protest, as it was only his vote that spared humanity after the Sin War. So he went on to Sanctuary alone and recruited humans, creating the Horadrim, who were tasked with trapping great evils inside the Soul Stones. They succeeded in their task, trapping Mephisto underneath the jungles of Kurast, Baal underneath Lut Gholein, but for additional protection, Baal's soul stone was embedded into Tal Rasha, the leader of the Horadrim at the time, who was then additionally locked up, and finally Diablo was captured in his own soul stone, and that soul stone was hidden underneath a Horadrim monastery, below its catacombs. People eventually started living around the monastery. They founded the town known as Tristram around it, which was part of the greater kingdom of Khanduras. Another important kingdom during this time is Westmarch, in which a new religion started to become popular, a religion called Zakarum. They started to spread it left and right, and Khanduras was kinda pissed off about this, but Khanduras would nonetheless get a new king, Leoric, who was sent from Kyrgyzstan to Khanduras by the Zakarum. He declared himself the king of Khanduras in the name of the Zakarum at the behest of Archbishop Lazarus. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. The biggest Zakarum temple ever is in Kurast. You remember what else is under Kurast? Mephisto. You know what Mephisto did? Corrupt the whole religion, including a pretty big shot archbishop called Lazarus, who I just mentioned. And where did Leoric set his court? In the Horadrim monastery in Tristram that would afterwards be known just as the Cathedral, where of course the soul stone of Diablo was hidden under. Oh yeah, this is gonna turn out so great. Oh well. Lazarus's plan was to have Leoric be the host of Diablo, but this didn't work out so well because Leoric was such a dope dude that even the people of Khanduras liked him, even though he was just a foreigner sent to rule over them. But Diablo still did have some sway over Leoric, causing him to become increasingly brutal and erratic, even starting a war with Westmarch out of pure paranoia, which devastated the kingdom of Khanduras. Among the soldiers sent to the war was his eldest son, Aidan. Leoric would then kill off his own wife out of paranoia, and his younger son Albrecht would become the true host of Diablo, as Leoric was too good at dodging Diablo's wishes sometimes. So Albrecht's head got a cool new upgrade, a big red gem that just happens to be Diablo's soul stone, and now Diablo was free to return to Sanctuary. Leoric was then killed by his own knights who have just had enough of his crap, but he was raised as an undead, now known as the Skeleton King. Aidan, Leoric's eldest son, would then return to a totally different Tristram after the war.
Thank goodness you returned. Much has changed since you lived here, my friend. All was peaceful until the Dark Riders came and destroyed our village. Many were cut down where they stood, and those who took up arms were slain or dragged away to become slaves, or worse. The church at the edge of town has been desecrated and is being used for dark rituals. The screams that echo in the night are inhuman, but some of our townsfolk may yet survive.
His whole family was gone, people were poor as the war was not too good on them, and there were demons and darkness all about. Additionally, a lot of city folks were gone too, because Lazarus tricked them into going inside the cathedral, where they were viciously slaughtered and tortured by a demon known as the Butcher.
And a fellow drinking geese?
Big cleaver, killing all my friends. Couldn't stop him, had to run away, couldn't save them. Trapped in a room with so many bodies, so many friends. No!
With the help of some friends, including the last Horadrim, Deckard Cain, and a witch called Adria, Aidan managed to slowly make his way under the cathedral in search of his brother and Diablo. Along the way, he defeated the Butcher, found and defeated his undead father Leoric, now known as the Skeleton King. He also defeated Archbishop Lazarus and eventually Diablo himself. After defeating Diablo, what remained was Albrecht, Aidan's younger brother. Seeing the soul stone in his brother's remains and deciding that someone must contain Diablo's dark soul, Aidan took the soul stone and etched it into his own forehead. He returned to the town of Tristram to lots and lots of celebration, but something changed within Aidan. He became darker. To chill out from all that killing, he would spend nights with the witch Adria, making sweet, sweet love. You see, there is another dimension to this. Adria was really into Diablo and all that burning hell scrap. so naturally she wanted to have a baby with one of the biggest demon lords in the existence, I guess, and she did. She got pregnante. Aidan would leave Tristram and would from then on be known as the Dark Wanderer. Adria would move out of Tristram and would later have a baby daughter, Leia, who she entrusted in the caring arms of Deckard Cain. Deckard Cain had his suspicions that this was a child of Diablo, but he didn't really do anything about it and kept caring for her anyways. Oh, and Tristram got totally wrecked by demons, killing everyone except Deckard Cain and Adria, who was already gone. Aidan would wander Sanctuary lots and lots until eventually reaching a tavern where he killed literally everyone and took a weak-willed human with him, a man named Marius.
Had the evil from my dreams followed me at my heels?
Their first stop was Lut Gholein, inside Tal Rasha's tomb/prison, where they faced Tyrell. As a reminder, Tal Rasha's tomb housed the soul of Baal, the Lord of Destruction. While Aidan and Tyrell were fighting, Baal tricked Marius into freeing him. Tyrell at the last minute managed to extract Marius, who still had Baal's soulstone, out, telling him to go to Kurast, into the gate to Hell, and to destroy the soulstone of Baal at the Hellforge. Yeah, it was kind of a weird plan, but Tyrell then got locked up inside the tomb and Marius was left to his own, and of course, Marius did manage to make his way to Kurast, but Diablo and Baal beat him to it. They reached the Zakarum Temple and Mephisto. Aidan then did a thing and became Diablo properly. Marius was too scared to go through the gate of hell, as you'd realistically expect from a normal person. I don't know what Tyrell was thinking, but then he ran away into an asylum and was chilling there for a while, haunted by horrible nightmares. A band of heroes would get caught up in all of this, and these are our heroes from Diablo 2. They would follow alongside the path of Marius and Aidan, but they would always be arriving too little, too late. They would face Andariel and Duriel, two lesser evils that were brought in to stop them, and in Kurast they would face and defeat Mephisto, free Tyrell with whom they went on to Pandemonium, where they planned to defeat Diablo and destroy the soul stones of Mephisto and Diablo. Remember, Marius still had Baal's soulstone, but he was in his asylum, so he was away. The heroes eventually managed to defeat Diablo and they destroyed the two soulstones at the Hellforge. However, Baal was not pissing around. He made his way to Marius' asylum, killed Marius, took his soulstone, and then marched on to Mount Arreat, where he hoped to finish the plan of the great evils by corrupting the World Stone, which was inside the Pandemonium Fortress again, the entrance to which was atop Mount Arreat. The heroes made their way to the Pandemonium Fortress, and there they defeat Baal. Tyrell then shows up and, tired of all this BS with the World Stone, decides to destroy it for good. This had some unintended side effects. First, Sanctuary was now open to both High Heavens and Burning Hells. Second, the World Stone was the thing that kept Nephilim powers within humans in check and weakened. And now, it was a given that those powers would eventually return. This return would be slow and gradual, but it would happen. Oh, and it also destroyed Tyrell's physical form. Malthael, Aspect of Wisdom, back in the High Heavens, kinda got tired of all this crap as well, so he just went missing. After all this, a demon named Skarn decides to take advantage of the power vacuum this whole deal has created, so he starts a cult that starts collecting shards of the Worldstone, but he is eventually defeated by the defenders of Sanctuary. About 20 years after this whole Worldstone ordeal, Tyrell manages to resurrect himself, and he remanifests in the heavens, which never really happened to any angel ever, so this was kind of an odd thing to have happened. Angiris Council was immediately pissed off at him for such a large interference, such as the whole Worldstone thing, so he basically tells them to piss off, shatters his armor, and falls into Sanctuary, becoming a human.
You cannot judge me. I am justice itself. We were meant for more than this. To protect the innocent. But if our precious laws bind you all to inaction, then I will no longer stand as your brother. Sacrilege.
What's interesting that a lot of people don't really mention is the form that Tyrell took. If you look at the depictions of Uldecian, who we mentioned when we talked about the Sin War, you can see that Tyrell pretty much took on Uldecian's form, as a form of tribute, I suppose, or to honor his sacrifice in the Sin War. Tyrell would fall into the Tristram Cathedral, stirring up the dead around the place, including the Skeleton King. During this time, Tristram was just an old ruin. There was, however, a new town built nearby, New Tristram. Tyrell's fall into Sanctuary would interest Deckard Cain, who was rescued at the behest of Leia by a champion that would really soon unlock their Nephilim potential. They seek out Tyrell, who has no idea what is happening as he lost his memories. You help him recover his sword and he get his memories back, but not before Magda, leader of a local witch coven that stole Tyrell's sword, kills Deckard Cain. Two lesser evils, Azmodan and Belial, make their way to Sanctuary. Tyrell recruits the champion who saved him in the task of defeating demons once again. Belial is in a region known as Caldeum, where it just so happens Magda is hiding. So the Nephilim, which is what I'm gonna call the player character of Diablo 3 from now, seeks her out and kills her. We also get to meet Adria, yes, that Adria, who tells Leia that she is her mom and stuff like that, and she also tells us that the only way to defeat the prime evils that are pouring in is by using the Black Soul Stone, which is a special soul stone created by a renegade Horadrim known as Zoltan Kule. This Black Soul Stone was crafted so that it could hold the souls of a lot of different creatures, be they demons or angels. Adria's plan was to use the Black Soul Stone to trap the souls of all 7 evils. She told the Nephilim that if all 7 evils were captured and then the Soul Stone was destroyed, the evils would be defeated forever. Now you might be wondering, but hey, weren't like most of the evils already destroyed / dead at this point? Well, you're exactly right, except that Adria did something where they were marked by her, sometime around that whole Tristram thing that happened, so their souls, instead of being destroyed, were sent right into the Black Soul Stone. It's a bit weird, but anyway, Zoltan Kule is resurrected and defeated, and the Nephilim gets the Black Soul Stone. Then they go and defeat Belial and trap his soul inside the stone. Meanwhile, Azmodan, the last of the lesser evils that is not captured in the Black Soul Stone, takes this opportunity to strike at Mount Arreat. However, the Nephilim defeats him and traps his soul inside Black Soul Stone. Now, that's all 7 evils inside the Black Soul Stone. Now it's time for the big reveal. Adria was friends with benefits with Diablo. Aiden / Diablo is Leia's father. Adria will now use Leia as a vessel for Diablo, who consumed the souls of the other 6 prime evils. Yeah man, lots of big stuff happening. Anyway, Diablo, having all 6 other prime evils inside of him, is declared the prime evil, singular, title held only by Tathamet. He strikes at the high heavens. Nephilim and Tyrell follow suit, and Diablo is of course defeated, like he always is, separating the evils once again into 7 separate souls trapped inside the Black Soul Stone. Imperius is all pissy but decides to leave humans alone. Everyone is happy and peace comes to Sanctuary at last. There will never ever be another... oh crap. Well, bad things are yet to come. Tyrell reforms the Order of the Horadrim, now tasked with keeping the Black Soul Stone that contained the souls of the prime evils inside, hiding it in the tomb of Rakis, the first king of Westmarch. Unbeknownst to most, Malthael had reappeared. He visited the Pandemonium Fortress and found a bunch of souls in place of the destroyed World Stone. He made this vortex of souls into a soul prison of sorts, and then decided that since all the evils are now gone, the only proper way to finally finish the eternal conflict is by eradicating humanity, who have those dirty demonic genes. Now that's some eugenics right there, man. He even managed to get some angels to his side. Malthael, now calling himself the Aspect of Death, broke into where Tyrell and the Horadrim were keeping the Black Soul Stone, stole it, started repurposing the stone into a huge soul trap. He activated the Black Soul Stone and denizens of Sanctuary would slowly start to die, their souls making way to the great soul trap that was now the Black Soul Stone. The Nephilim would then come to Westmarch to aid Tyrell and the reformed Horadrim. In process, the Nephilim would also finally fight Adria and would defeat her. Eventually, the Nephilim would make their way into the Pandemonium Fortress, where Malthael was hiding. Oh, and also along the way, the Nephilim consumed the powers of death itself so that he could fight against Malthael, making him even more of a literal, walking god. Nephilim at this point is the strongest being in the whole existence. The fighting against Malthael was intense, and Malthael even resorted to destroying the Black Soul Stone so that he could use the powers of the 7 prime evils. And even then, the Nephilim was too powerful for Malthael, and thus Malthael was defeated, and all the souls he captured were released, including Diablos. Our story ends with Tyrell pondering how Malthael got to where he did, and if a being such as Malthael, the aspect of wisdom, could be corrupted, what could that mean for the Nephilim champion? He wonders if there would be a force strong enough to defeat the Nephilim if they too succumb to corruption. After all, the Diablo series is full of stories like that, most notably with Aiden, the Dark Wanderer. Our story then takes a break for now. What we know of Diablo 4 is that Lilith is back, and it's been a lot of years since Diablo 3. We don't really know many details, but we do know that Duriel and Andariel are back for sure, with additional prime evils being hinted at, but all of that is a story for another time. Thank you very much for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, feel free to ask or comment anything, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Considering this is a huge ass video, if you happen to see some inconsistencies or something, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I will pin your comment. See you in the next one for now. Peace.